Hello everyone, welcome finally back to S.H.I.E.L.D. discussions. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the real Manos still.
After a long hiatus, Manos and I are finally back, not because Manos and I haven't been wanting to do this show, but because there have not been shows out to review. And now we're back finally to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's coming back from its long hiatus, which a lot of folks have really been complaining kind of hard about. And we're into Tahiti. Tahiti with dots in between, because it's an acronym for something. I think we should start there, Manos. I'm really curious about what exactly the significance is to that being the name of this thing.
Yeah, the acronym. First off, that was a good kind of bluff for a while, where he constantly said, "Oh, I was in Tahiti, blah blah blah," and then I don't know. Actually thought that was a pretty good reveal. This is the first time that was revealed, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, no, we sure didn't know that it was the name of anything else. I gotta say, I sort of called foul on it at first, and I guess we'll see how it unfolds. It does seem a little bit strange that S.H.I.E.L.D. would have this really top secret crazy thing called Tahiti. We don't know what it is, and then they would tell Coulson that Tahiti is the place where he was, almost as if they were like baiting him to eventually find it for some reason. I don't know why the word Tahiti would have come up if that was a big top secret name for something.
Yeah, maybe telling him you went to Detroit wouldn't have been so believable. But
it was a magical place.
yes.
It was a magical bankrupt place.
You and me in Detroit. Um,
It's where I vacationed with RoboCop.
Yes, I think that there is a possibility. You're right about maybe not so much baiting him, but possibly giving him clues. I'm beginning to wonder if Fury. I imagine it was Fury's order to take him to this.
Oh yeah, clearly.
I imagine that since these guys don't seem to be working with Shield, or maybe not even with the government, maybe Fury found himself in a tight spot where he had to do this, and didn't think, maybe he couldn't even tell Coulson. So maybe on purpose he's kind of left him with the clues for him to find
Oh,
what's going on.
interesting. Giving him like a really, really vague trail of breadcrumbs. That's interesting. I hope it's something like that because otherwise it's kind of silly.
I think actually, if it isn't like that, I think that would probably be maybe sloppy writing almost.
That's exactly what I'm saying. We're like, oh man, they called this thing Tahiti. They didn't have to name it the same thing, and obviously nobody wants him to know. So why would there be a cryptic clue anywhere? These are not '60s Batman villains we're dealing with. So I'm just saying that I need it to make sense later. I'm not complaining about it right now,
Yeah.
but I need it to find. And I've had that so much with this show, Manos, where like there'll be a thing that comes up, and I'm like, I don't know what this means, and then later on, okay, you reveal a little bit more, sort of, but I still don't know what this means. So I'm with it more than I was. At least I like these characters more than I did.
That's true. Well, they've definitely, I think, grown on. They've grown on me. I don't know about everybody else. But
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes they. But let's talk about this since the episode
yeah,
was
sure.
mostly about this. I really do feel like maybe they hedge their bets, and I think we've mentioned this before. They hedge their bets way too much on the mystery of his resurrection,
Absolutely, they
and
did. 100%.
I I hope they don't plan to go any further than season one, because I don't think it's enough of a mystery to kind of be the main plot. Actually, it didn't
I
seem
don't
like
either.
outside of Deathlock, which they kind of didn't really get too deep into until just recently, there wasn't really much going on outside of that. And if you have a show like this, it takes place in the Marvel universe. Even the more simplified, Marvel, film universe. There's a ton of things going on, and a ton of possible stories, with this fairly huge ensemble cast. So I think putting so much emphasis on this, I do think that maybe, feel free to disagree or agree, that they kind of like overstepped they overplayed their hand with Coulson because they knew people would be excited to see him. They knew he was a fan favorite character, and they knew people would be interested in how he's alive. I feel like they kind of like didn't think about anything else.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I mean, like, there might have been, like, a long form storytelling plan where eventually we have these ideas for a couple of these characters, you know? Like we've been speculating, you and I, and then Dan before that, like, you know, Sky probably has superpowers, might be Spider-Woman. You know, so, I mean, there's a number of things that they might have sort of planted, at least in their own heads, at the beginning that they're eventually going to pay off. But the wisdom from the producers has been, and they've gone on record to say this, and Whedon has said this, that they didn't want it to be too superhero heavy and too Marvel heavy at the beginning because they wanted it to like plant its own feet in the sand, and they wanted to you know, be about these characters first, so that it wasn't like being gimmicky and relying on that stuff. And I understand that, but the question everybody has to ask for themselves, I think, is were these characters and were the stories they were telling compelling enough to drive the show?
And that's a good question.
And that's a good question. And for me, the answer has been just barely. I guess what I'm saying, and I mean, like, you know, you and I loved last episode. I really liked a couple before that. It's been gaining traction, but at a pretty slow rate. And you know, I read a blog where somebody was arguing that it had to do that it couldn't start off doing all the big giant superhero stuff right away and being all about the movie continuity. And yes, I agree with that, but that argument doesn't make it effective.
Mhm.
You
I
know, that's the difficulty, is that doesn't make it effective. The question I'd ask you, Manos, is would this show have the viewership it does if it wasn't Shield, if it didn't have Marvel in the title? I don't think it would.
It wouldn't, and that's the funny, weird situation they're in. They don't want to oversell it as a superhero show, but I mean, how many times do we see clips of the Avengers movie in the previews, you know, of the series?
Yeah, they had to sell it on that,
Yeah, and matter of
exactly.
fact, the first few clips of the pilot are shots from the Battle of New York.
Right. Yeah, and I
So
don't want to get too broad just talking about the series as a whole. We need to get back into the
yeah,
episode itself. But
yeah, but you know, they could have like avoided. You know, they could have avoided. I do understand that argument. I don't totally agree with it.
well, here's the thing.
But
I agree with
I
that
think
argument.
I
I
keep
just don't know
thinking.
if what they gave us was enough. That's all I'm saying. Is that like the article I read was like, well, they can't do too much movie stuff. I'm like, I'm not sure that's what a lot of people are really complaining about. I think it's more that they're not falling back anything, you know. At least they won at the beginning. I think it's gotten better.
It has. It
Uh,
has. Well, here's the
but
thing.
then
Here's the,
now,
well,
sorry, go ahead.
I just keep thinking about. I keep thinking about. Um, I don't know if this is going to sound strange, but I keep thinking about the first season of X-Files, where that it has agents investigating weird situations, and they're not. The first season of X-Files wasn't connected to anything. It was his own thing. Maybe that's kind. But what sold that show was how interesting and thought provoking a lot of those stories and situations were. And I think if they had been able to do something like that to that level, I think, you know, maybe I think people would have been more patient.
Well, I would argue that up until now, a lot of those one and done episodes were just a little bit generic.
Mhm.
And I know I'm going to get some flack for that. There's people that don't agree with me on that. Fine. That's just that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And you know, at this point, like I said, I like these people more. I think the acting is really great right now. I think the writing has certainly improved, but it feels almost as if they've decided, and there's a lot of speculation that month off and some time even before that was because they were reworking things to give the fans more of what they want, a la Lorelei.
Yeah. I think
And
that.
and so
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're okay. And so but it almost feels like what they're trying to give us now is is like a show that's, and I don't know if they will do more one and dones down the, as time goes on, but it's almost like, the fans saying that they wanted it to feel more like it fit in that Marvel universe. They wanted to see more characters from the comic books. And again, I'm not saying that's what was wrong with the show. I'm saying other people said that.
Yeah.
That they also decided that that meant that fans also didn't want standalone stories. I'm fine with standalone stories. I just need to be drawn in more than I feel like I was.
Well, I think that's the essential problem is being drawn in. I think that a lot of standalone stories can be used to, build on top of each other. It's just, I would have been fine with not seeing like, Captain America waving at the camera or something for episode 1 and 2 and 3. But I think that I'm a little worried that they're going to be going in the opposite direction now. That they're going to try too hard.
Well,
And
I
I
suppose
think I think the rest of the season we'll see if that's happening or not.
I'll tell
So
you
far,
what.
not yet. I don't think they're
Tell,
trying too hard yet.
I'll tell you what I like about Lorelai. I think it's neat. I think it's neat to introduce characters that will be major players in movies later in the show.
Yes, I agree.
I'm totally fine with that. I think that's cool. I think what a lot of fans were kind of waiting for were for this show to introduce some characters from the comics. Like I said, that article that I read seemed like what people were complaining about was that it wasn't movie heavy, and I don't think that's it at all. I think it's just that, like, week to week, this show has an opportunity to establish, some minor characters, or maybe even a couple major ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we're familiar with in the comics, and it's not like Shield itself doesn't have a history.
Well, yeah, of course not. It's already Well, you've been talking about within the cinematic universe or just in general?
No, I just mean in general.
Yeah.
It's not like Shield. It's not like Shield in the comics doesn't have its own mythology and its own set of characters, and they've not really been mining that very hard either. That's the argument I would make.
Yeah.
But like I said, the logic early on was we've got to not deal with any of that stuff so that we can develop our made up characters, and that's totally fine. I would just argue that I wasn't as drawn in as I would have liked to have been. Let's go ahead and jump
Yeah.
deeper into the episode itself. I where should we start? Let me look at some notes here real quick. Okay, I maybe this is going to go too far into speculation territory, but I'm wondering if Coulson coming back from the dead maybe actually really is impossible
Mm.
because of the way Simmons says it, and because of what we see, that I still don't know exactly what I'm looking at. When we're at the Tahiti place, I think it's really interesting. Bear with me for a second. That there are a number of things in this show that have been labeled impossible, that have never been fully corroborated as in this universe being impossible, including both telepathy and telekinesis. Or I'm sorry, not telekinesis, and clairvoyance.
Yeah.
We still don't know 100% if the clairvoyant can really do what he's saying he can, or if he has some other means of doing that. And the character, and a character early on that at first they made us think was maybe telepathic, in fact, just had hardware in their head and were being delivered messages by, guess what, the clairvoyant. It's all connected.
Hmm.
So I wonder if this isn't another thing where we're going to find out that what happened to Coulson is in fact not resurrection, and is still something else. Because up until now, after what we learned in like the bridge, or I think right after the bridge, I thought, oh, okay, everybody was totally off base. He's not a life model decoy. He's not a clone or anything. It's still definitely his body. I'm back to not sure about that now.
It's possible. I mean, I still keep thinking. I keep thinking about that freakish machine typing into his brain.
Yeah, what a cool image.
It is, and it's every time I've seen it, I'm a little unnerved by it.
Yeah, and you're supposed to be. I love that.
That's what I keep thinking about. That's what I keep going back to. Actually, is that maybe I don't know if this could be like maybe a clone, and then maybe his brain is programmed into it. Oh, I don't know.
what I'm finding myself wondering now is if the typing on his brain. I love the way you said that, by the way. The typing on his brain thing.
Yes, yes.
If that, because that's what it looks like. If it's not putting his brain back together or modifying it, but rather constructing it in the first place.
Oh,
You know, I
wow.
mean, we don't know really what we're looking at. I think that's really interesting. And you know, you said you were unnerved by that image. I think it's really interesting because it furthers the idea from Avengers of a government entity having too much power, and in this case, too much supernatural power.
Yeah, I think, yeah, because I
There
think,
they were.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. They were trying to develop technology with the cosmic cube, and now they seem to perhaps have the ability to bring people back from the dead. And isn't that really scary for an organization with authority to have that power and not tell anyone about it?
Yes, even probably even within their own government, I wouldn't be surprised. Uh,
Oh, absolutely. Well, and I mean, like, it seems like the only person that knows about it is Nick Fury and a few doctors.
hmm
As far as we can tell, you have to have level 10 clearance to know about this specifically.
Yeah. And of course, yeah, it looks like they're mucking with the alien technology, and like, do they 100% know what they're using?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's been a big theme throughout the season. I think it's getting more interesting.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing I took away from this. And I really like that. Manos, what kind of notes do you have, general overview wise? What would you like to talk about?
Oh, let's see. Oh, I have a lot of Bill Paxton here, but
Yeah.
because frankly, this is the most Bill Paxton episode ever. Oh,
Yes, it is. Did you like him? I did.
I love Bill Paxton. I always get a kick out of him whenever he's in a movie or TV show. Oh,
What I liked about his character is I felt like he was the most Shield-ish character we've really had on the plane.
yeah, and I'm thinking like old school kind of Shield.
Yeah, he's really gruff. He's really gruff, but he also is somewhat relatable. He obviously does somewhat care about people. He can kind of balance those two things. I want him back. I think he could be a mainstay. I think he could be in the show. Like,
If they could afford him, I'd love to see him in the show every week.
yeah, me too. I think he's great, and I thought he brought a lot of personality to this.
He did to what could have been like a dull character. That's what you do when you get a truly good actor who has that capability of them. I really loved the connection between him and Coulson, and early in the episode where he invades the plane,
Yeah.
and you think, oh god, is this whole episode going to be them fighting on the plane and whether or not they're going to go and do it?
Oh yeah, I was so glad that 5 minutes later they're working together. I did not expect that. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be like we've been boarded and now this total jerk face that nobody likes that's just all business and no fun is gonna run thing and no, it wasn't like that at all. Yay,
Yeah, I
you
was
know?
really relieved when they
Yeah,
came to an understanding, and it was believable too. They had talked about
yes it
like
was.
how they were working together and respected each other and friends, and they're like, well, look, if you let me go and do this, we'll let you have this guy, and that seemed pretty reasonable. I
I thought a
like
lot
it
of
when
this
heroes
episode,
are smart and
and I also
reasonable.
like it. Yeah, I kind of thought that a lot of this episode, both with Garrett and also with the Tahiti place, was really kind of grounding this show in a place where we're reminded of what Shield is and what they're supposed to be,
Yeah,
because we've been kind of seeing this organization in a lot of places through rose-tinted glasses because we've been following Coulson and his team on this plane, and the way they operate is not the way Shield at large operates. And they've been going in this more kind of idealistic direction where they put people ahead of the mission, and that's not what Shield does. And I'm not complaining about that, but I'm saying that it was kind of interesting here that it was kind of like a shock to the system for me a little bit. I was like, oh yeah, this feels more like the Shield we saw in the movies.
hmm
And I was glad to see a little bit more of that. We've seen that in a couple places, especially with Brand. Anytime she's on screen, I'm like, oh yes, this is the face of Shield. Um, with this guy, with this Garrett guy, it was kind of like this. It was kind of this best of both worlds sort of thing, where like he reminded me of Shield, but then he was a person.
Yeah, I completely agree on that.
Okay, I'm just gonna throw out some random notes whenever I see them in my notes. Is that
Okay.
okay with you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Let's get going.
I'm gonna be, and you feel free to do the same. This is going to have nothing to do with anything, but I thought it was funny. Why does Coulson have a pair of handcuffs on display in his office in his collectibles?
Well, uh,
I just thought that was really funny. I noticed it this time, and I'd never seen it before. He's got like there's I don't understand that he has handcuffs, and they're like sitting on a base. And I'm like, oh, okay, they must have been special handcuffs.
I guess. Well, that's why he's always really sad about that cellist he doesn't see anymore.
Yeah, of course.
And let's see.
That's really funny.
But let's see. What else you got?
Oh, okay. Well, I thought it was interesting the idea that the clairvoyant may have had Quinn shoot Sky because he knew the future and knew that it was going to lead him to the Tahiti place.
Hmm.
So like we've got a little bit of a pseudo heroes thing going on there. And but yeah, I think that's interesting, and I think it's interesting that like he is so in control of all of his people because they're all terrified of him. So even if they don't have like a chip in their head or whatever that's feeding them his instructions,
Yeah.
we have that moment where Quinn basically says, and it humanized him a little bit. Not that I'm supposed to like this guy, but like Quinn has that moment where he pretty much comes out and says, "I knew if I didn't do that I'd be dead." And remember that only a couple episodes ago we saw somebody on a cell phone with the clairvoyant get killed over a cell phone. So like this guy knows that kind of thing can happen to him.
I'm going to say this right here. I haven't really talked too much about the clairvoyant. I think that the presence of this villain, this mysterious villain, I think has been well played. I think it's a very intimidating, frightening villain, actually. Be, just because how powerful, and I frankly think they do a very good job, kind of been building him or her up, really.
Yeah, and it is certainly risky because when you do something like that, when they finally reveal who it is, you want it to be a big gasp, shock, and awe moment.
But yeah,
Um,
that's the well right now.
that's yeah, that's the
I
no,
mean,
that's the
after
risk.
this season's
But
over, we'll see about where we go.
what's cool about it is so far not knowing what it is and seeing it very ominously looming in the background, like it conjures up images. Everybody. It's sort of like God, right? Like everybody in their mind's eye has an idea of what like entities that have always been spoken of but we can't see
Yeah.
look like. And so when you think about something like the clairvoyant, before you finally see him, we all are going to have a vague mental picture of who this person is, unless it's the leader, in which case I know just what he looks like.
Or let's see, somebody suggested on the previous video that it could be Mordok.
Yeah,
I
it'd
thought
be
that was a
really
really
weird if
interesting idea.
it would be really weird if it was Modok though, just because like Modok is a really silly sort of character. Like if it turned out like I don't know, I'm not sure that Modok, unless they're reinventing him,
Well, they would have to be
is
reinventing him. Yes.
incredibly reinvented because I don't think he does like these kind of backdoor machinations like that. He seems a little bit from at least what I've read of Modok. He seems like a character who's a little bit more abrasive and in your face about things, but
He's nothing but face. He has no
he's
choice.
not about face. Yeah,
But I think that would be a good. I think that would be a good way to work the character is to pull back until he's basically just this mysterious presence that nobody sees.
yeah,
I think, and of course, he does kind of do stuff like what the clairvoyant has been doing. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and the
it
first thing
fits
you
to
have to do,
me.
of course.
And,
Yeah, no, you're right. It does fit. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not possible. It
yeah,
could happen.
and I doubt we'll
But
see him in Iron Man 4 or Avengers 2. So it'd
I
be a
mean, the
good place to
first
put him.
the first place your mind goes if you're a Marvel fan is what villainous characters have this ability,
Mm.
and
And to be
why don't
honest, I
we?
try not to think A-list because, we're not
Because
going
it's
to.
probably not going to be a list. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to get an A-list guy. It would have to be a slightly B-list, enough of a threat to be like an important thought of villain, but not like a Baron Zemo type kind of guy. Like, yeah, we're not going to
Uh,
get the Red Skull, but Zemo could probably be there or something.
yeah, but Zemo's in Captain America too.
Okay, well, just for an example.
If I'm remembering right, yeah, I think he's supposed to be in that. Okay, probably the big point of discussion here ought to be the big reveal of whatever in the world was in the tube at the end,
Oh,
and
that.
we should probably.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Oh, you mean Dead Mr. Freeze?
Yes, dead zombie looking Mr. Freeze.
Yes.
Dead zombie looking X-Files alien Mr. Freeze.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should probably talk about this
Yeah, we haven't
because
really talked about that, have we? Let's talk about the dead guy.
let's go ahead and talk about or whatever it
The dead
was
alien.
because here's a thing that both irritates me and interests me all at the same time. Like this show has had a tendency to do this where they'll make you wait and wait and wait for a reveal, and then when you finally get it, you still don't know what you're looking at.
Yes.
And they've done this to us again, and I don't want to say it's fully unsatisfying because I understand what it's there for. I'm supposed to be curious, and I don't think that I would have reacted any differently than the way Coulson did. Of course, Coulson doesn't know what he's looking at either, but whatever it is, it's hooked up to tubes and has clearly been fed the stuff they're about to feed to Sky. Yeah, I would have done the same thing he did, but I do somewhat question the fact that he sees it, we don't get to see it, we have to wait 10 minutes, I finally see it, and it's played like a revelation, and I don't understand what I'm looking at.
I think that would probably be.
Did you
Actually,
have the same
I did
reaction?
have the same reaction. And you know what? I was thinking in my notes, this is the best and worst moment of the episode.
Yes, it is. I had, yeah. Great,
Because
great. Yeah.
this should be a stronger reveal. And I'm kind of going, is this like an alien from the Avengers movie? Or who is this guy? Well, is that his blood that's used as the serum? Is it been drained out of him? Oh, I suppose it's enough to get me like invested, but man, I really could have used a tiny bit more on that.
Well, and I'm also not even Manos complaining that at this point in the story I don't understand it. I guess it's more and I feel like maybe gimmick is even too strong of a word, but I guess it's more just the choice of storytelling mechanic. I don't like that it was given to us in flashback 10 minutes after we should have seen it. That can be used to good effect. Look, if they done that to us, if they made us like he sees it and we're like, well, why don't I get to see it? And then 10 minutes later they show us like a duplicate of him. Okay, or they show us like you know like a robot. Okay, like it'd be a reveal that not only blows my mind but also that I can sink my teeth into. I understand what I'm looking at. Here I just like if they had shown it to us right there, Manos, I would not be complaining that I don't know what it is.
True. That's
That's all I'm saying. I thought that was yeah, I don't know, gimmicky is the only word I can think of, and I didn't care for that choice. Just my opinion, but I didn't care for that choice.
I think, yeah. Also, we've seen aliens in this universe.
Well, that's the problem though, is that
It's
it's a
like
little bit awkward. I don't know if it's an alien. Just because it's got like black eyeballs like that without any pupils doesn't mean that it's an alien.
I
It could be
suppose
like
so, but
it,
he's like
it
really big, and he looks
Well, no,
alienish.
that's the point. It doesn't look like a human skull necessarily, but I just don't know because we don't know what's been done to it. Like, it
Yeah.
could be a human that was experimented on, where they're like trying to transform it into something. You
I mean,
don't you
yeah,
don't.
he could be part of the Super Soldier project that they were
Yeah,
trying to rebuild. Uh, where they were trying to recreate Steve Rogers again.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah, don't put that past them because we know that the whole super soldiers serum thing has everything to do with what the clairvoyant's been doing, and he is after the secret of what happened to Coulson, so that could all be very easily connected.
Yeah,
But
because
yeah,
yeah, that is a good point because the research on trying to recreate that was established in the Hulk film.
well, and it was established, and then after that, of course, that's at the beginning of the show. That's what led to Mike Peterson.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, I guess the that supports the theory that it could be the leader
Yeah, that's a really good point.
because the
Yeah,
leader is involved in that film.
was involved in that in all of that. Yeah, so that's given more credence to that idea. So I don't know. What's weird about it is that like four or five different things went in my brain. I thought it could be alien. Given all of the talk about all the stuff. About the Chitauri that we've dealt with post Avengers in this show, I think it's likely to be alien before it's anything else. Some kind of alien. At first, I thought, or actually, I'm sorry, I didn't think this. I read in a couple places, and I think Blue Dragon 5 mentioned this to me that some people were thinking maybe Kree,
Mm,
but it doesn't have the lines on its chin.
that's true. Although
So
this is the film
yeah,
version of the Kree, so
they do, yeah. So it could be that. It looks like it has blue skin, but that could just be
the
the
fluid.
the uh, the fluid that he's in. Yeah, who knows? The very first thing that popped in my head is this the remains of Coulson's real body?
Wow, that would be.
That was the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't think that's what it is. But the awkwardness comes in, and I just don't know. Do the producers think that they revealed more information in that scene than they actually did?
I think that's a good question. Uh,
That's all I'm saying. I like because like I said, it was treated like such an epiphany kind of moment. Although that's not to say that Coulson is acting like he knows what he's looking at. So that's maybe not fair. But I don't know, man. Whenever you have like the big operatic choir music in the background, which by the way was a really great score. But whenever you have that, usually it's something where I go, oh, it all is coming together and makes it. There I went. I'm baffled. I have no idea what I'm looking at. So, and I did that stupid geek thing of like a second time I watched it, go back and like pause it in places and try to figure out if I can see any extra details. Just because I had to. I don't know what I'm looking at. It's missing part of the bottom of its body. What's
yes,
that
yeah,
about? Yeah, there's just like it's got like stitching in its stomach, like either its stomach has been opened or it's been put together Frankenstein style. Keep in mind that Coulson's heart was said in this episode to have been split in half, and then he was somehow put back together. Interesting that whatever this remains of a corpse is, has stitching right where its heart would be.
yeah.
I don't know what I'm looking at. It's like half of its mouth is closed. There's a lot of interesting provocative imagery there, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but like I said, I would have been in love with it if only they had done it linearly.
hmm I just, I guess I don't know. I'm not sure if I have any more questions outside of, did how maybe I mean, is it possible that they repaired Coulson's body using like alien spare parts?
Oh, you know what? That makes more sense than anything now that you say it.
Yeah.
How did I not think of that? Right. But then what's weird about that is they didn't have to replace the bottom half of Coulson's body, and that's most of what's missing. Although it could have. It could be missing its brain. I don't know why they would have restitched up its stomach if they had borrowed its heart, but maybe. Yeah. So anyway, all I have there are questions, and once again, let me reiterate. I am aware that I am supposed to be asking all of these questions, and they did a good job of making me want to come back. And also, if I may, let me jump on to another quick point I'd like to make
Sure.
before we go on to best moment, worst moment, unless you have some things. And that is that I also liked the way that they've got me wanting Raren to come back next week with the question of what exactly is Sky going to be like when she wakes up. I really like that even though she's for all intents and purposes back to normal at the end of this episode, she's still in a coma and we don't get to see her get up yet.
Yeah, I think that was a wise move
Yes,
to
it was.
to not reveal that, because it still leaves me wondering. Like, yeah, she's technically okay, but how okay is she? Or is she even better than okay?
Yeah. Well, and when we get to predictions, I've got a couple ideas about that. I'm sorry, Manos, did you have any other notes you wanted to jump to before we go over to best and worst moment?
Let's see. Well, let's see. Oh, no, that's it.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, take your time. I kind of just ran through my stuff, so.
I think I kind of like in conversation talked about well, I actually, oh wait, I did skip something over. What's the big idea note? And
We haven't gotten to that yet.
okay. Oh well, then we'll just jump in then. Let's go.
Okay, sweet. Well, are your best and worst moments officially that last scene? Because I love that.
Yes, that was it.
Cool. Okay, well, I agree with you, but I also had another worst moment I wanted to tack on,
Sure.
and this isn't so much that the moment itself or the scene was bad, but I really questioned something, and I wonder, Manos, if anybody else picked up on this, or if I'm out of my mind. But I thought this was really kind of strange. We talked about something at the end of the last episode, which was it looked to me like Ward was really, really angry with someone about what happened to Sky, and it looked like it was probably Fitz.
Hmm.
And because and I went back and watched that scene just to make sure that I was remembering it right. What happens in that scene is he's talking to May, and she says you can't blame yourself, and he says I don't blame myself. And the way the camera comes into his face, they looked to me to clearly be establishing something that they wanted to build on in the next episode. Like it was too big of a moment. They lingered on it and it looked like a vengeance thing. And I thought he was going to go crazy this episode on Fitz for letting her go in by herself. And I either read the scene wrong or something because you get into this episode and they very quickly address Ward, but they either retconned it or that just wasn't where they were going, and it was an awkward scene because at the beginning of this, Ward tells Fitz not to blame himself. And what I don't understand is why they would make such a big deal out of if what he was thinking. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
Okay.
If what he was thinking there in that episode was, I'm not blaming myself, I'm blaming the bad guy who shot her, it's a little bit too melodramatic that he wouldn't just straight up say, "Oh, I don't blame myself. I blame the guy that shot her." And so here, he makes a big deal out of, hey Fitz, you can't blame yourself. If all he was talking about was Quinn, why did they single him out as being so angry with Quinn? Because obviously everybody feels that way. He's not alone. And in this episode, it wasn't him that goes in and beats the crap out of Quinn for doing that. It's May.
Hmm.
So I don't know what they were doing with that scene.
Ooh. Maybe they just put off the wrong vibes on that. You just got
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know. It was pretty obviously a setup of some kind, and I think they might have backtracked on it.
Or maybe just
That's what I,
isn't it is
that's
it
what I think happened.
possible that they didn't mean to make it seem that way and it just
No,
kind of came off
you're
wrong?
right. It is possible, but I don't know why they shot it that way, and I don't know why they singled him out.
Well, yeah.
Because they were too vague about it. It was too cryptic. They're like, "Oh, I don't blame myself." Oh, well, who do you blame? Well, the obvious answer is the bad guy. So my mind went to, well, he's got to be talking about Fitz. And given the positive relationship they've been building through the season, it would have been kind of interesting to see them have some animosity toward each other. I like it, or it could have been irritating. I'm not even saying I'm annoyed that they didn't go there, but it's weird in succession. And it also, to me, and again, I could be reading too much into it. I don't know. This is just how I read it. I'm also wondering, or I'm also thinking that it's possible that they did that and then they decided to backtrack on it and they didn't want to go there. And so they thought, well, we had a month, maybe nobody will notice.
And we have to reshoot it and everything. Forget it.
Because but that's the thing is that like they took so much time off.
Well,
I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
you got to keep in mind, they're doing a lot of,
Yeah.
this is a show. This is a big show with a lot of people working on it with a lot of
And they're
like,
restructuring things, so I'm thinking that might have been a thing where they went, we had this thread we wanted to do and we axed it because we don't like it now.
yeah.
That's what I think might have happened there. Anyway, or I could be totally off base, but I'm telling you that scene watches really really awkwardly if all he's talking about is the bad guy. That's I don't know. I think it's weird. Let's go on to what's the big idea. What were your notes?
My note is something that really struck out to me. To be honest, I can't really make a 100% argument that this is what the entire episode was about. Uh, but this is something that kind of jumped onto me is when is watching Coulson put himself all through this, challenging the rest of Shield, going to this place, taking the risk that Clairvoyant will learn what it needs to learn, all for the sake of Sky and to save her life, and in a weird way, putting himself in the position Fury did by doing whatever he did to save him,
Yeah.
and have that moment kind of slap him in the face, when he has that panic attack, where he wants to go back on it, and now, well, can't go back on it. It's already happened. So it's been an interesting kind of as he's still trying to figure out this mystery, he has found himself on the other side of it, in an odd position, through fate. That's probably the biggest, outside of all the the reveals and all the other neat stuff in this episode. That was the thing that kind of grabbed me.
Yeah, it's about the big emotions, right? It's about desperation. It's about vulnerability in times of desperation. It's about playing God, which a lot of these episodes have been about. And I thought it was really interesting that I think the big word to sum all everything you were talking about up, Manos, is loyalty, and I think it's really interesting that that theme is echoed in the otherwise disconnected Stinger,
Mm.
where Lorelai comes in and she's talking about loyalty to the people you love. And at first, I was like, the Stinger feels really tacked on, and like we didn't really need to put that there except to just give people a reason to come back. But wouldn't it have been nice if it was somehow connected to the episode? But thematically, it is, and I think that's kind of cool.
That's actually an interesting idea. I didn't even thought about that.
It took me two viewings before I came up with that.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, that was cool. The Stinger, by the way, is felt a lot to me like one of those after credit scenes.
It did, and they've kind of played around with that a couple times in the show with the after. Uh,
They have, but it's always connected to the episode.
yeah,
Like they it never just like goes off into a subplot that it doesn't connect up yet. Like there's nothing about Shield or our characters whatsoever in that. Like
yeah,
nothing.
yeah. I remember watching that, and listen,
It's a Thor scene. It's a scene from a Thor movie.
yeah, yeah, it is. It's like the cut scene from Thor 2. Um, but
No, it's one of like 12 billion cutscenes from Thor 2.
yeah, yeah. Well, I was talking about one of my top three favorites, but
I see. Okay.
no, I don't know what I'm saying. But
I don't know what you're saying. No, I'm just saying that that's not the only thing they got.
I know. But
So
yeah, I'm watching
so
that scene. I'm thinking, that first off, I'm thinking that guy is kind of an idiot for talking to her too long.
well, for not at least going, what are you wearing?
Yeah, or the fact that, oh well, I can't take you. I got a two-seater. Me and my wife there. It's like, you're a moron. But I on further thinking about it, it's possible she was controlling him like from second one, without even him realizing it. So
I guess that's possible.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking. Because if somebody like that said, hey, if there's anybody who can help me, I go, yeah, why don't you call in there? Because I'm on my honeymoon and I'm like not dealing with an insane person. So that's what I'm thinking. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see where that goes.
It's interesting too because they're making such a big deal out of, okay, fine, you irritating fanboys, we'll finally give you some comic characters. I wonder just how many people are even going to be familiar with her.
I'm not that familiar with her. Granted, I'm not the huge Thor fanatic,
Yeah, I only know her because I finally started reading Simonson's run, and she is a cool character. Like I'm excited to see her in this, and I like like I'm not belittling the fact that it's a minor that it's a pseudo minor. It's not that minor if you know Thor.
Well,
It's
it's
actually kind of
exciting,
a
actually.
for this show. For this show, it's huge. I mean, like I'm not dogging them at all, but I think it's really interesting. I think they might be proving a point with this because I think there's a number of people that have been asking for that. They're going to watch this and be like, I don't know who that is.
Well, then look her up, fanboys. See,
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
this
You
is
know,
what I was kind
like
of hoping. This is what I was kind of hoping the show would do with its superheroes and villains that appear. That, yeah, not every Captain America, Iron Man, or Thor or Hulk character can appear in these films. So
exactly.
this would be a nice chance for the secondary characters, to get their moments, or maybe even set up for, future sequels. So I thought that was a good use of the character.
Let's go ahead and go on to guest stars. Obviously, we've been talking about Bill Paxton, and he was great. And they made a big deal out of he's coming back. Don't worry, they're bringing him back. And like I said, if they could, like you said, if they could afford him, I'd be totally cool with him just being a mainstay.
I would totally watch every week Bill Paxton, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Bill Paxton, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. The guy who played Anton Triplett, who we didn't talk about, but I thought was a potentially cool character. I liked him. He is an actor named B.J. Britt, who I don't know from really anything. He's got a pretty good credits list. He was a major character apparently in One Tree Hill. A bunch of stuff I wouldn't have thought to watch. Like he was in Everybody Hates Chris. And weirdly though, he was also in the failed Wonder Woman pilot.
Oh, really? Okay.
That is in fact the only thing I've ever seen that guy in. Anyway,
Yes, I have no
so
thoughts
that's
on him. I'm sorry.
for there. No, that's totally cool. Okay, let's go on to favorite line. Did you have a favorite line
Of
this week, man?
course I did.
Okay, what was it?
Deathlock sounds like a bad 80s horror movie.
I wrote that. No, not horror movie.
Or
Wrestler.
what's that?
Wrestler.
Wrestler. Oh, Wrestler. Oh, I'm sorry. That was my own line.
No, I thought that was pretty funny
Yeah.
too. Though.
Well, I
It
mean,
does sound like a wrestler from the '80s. He's
actually, it sounds
right.
like a band from the 80s.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Actually,
It
isn't
does
there
sound.
an Adult Swim show called Deathlock?
I don't
Death
know.
Clock. Death Clock.
If so, I never watched that. I thought it was. I don't know if this was a good line, but it made me laugh, so I wrote it down. When the exchange when Triplet says, "How did Coulson score a sweet ride like this?" and Ward says he died, and Triplet says, "That's tight," and they just move on. It's really fun. And what cracks me up about that too is that like the show is right now all about Coulson's death and how that shouldn't be possible and how big of a deal it is. And then this guy's just like, yeah, it's pretty cool. And then they just move on. That's really funny to me. Let's go on to comic references. I don't know if this is the first time it's been mentioned, but we got a mention of Triskelion here, which is not just an episode of Star Trek: The Original Series, but also the Shield Island base in the Ultimates.
Oh, wow. That blew
So
past me.
that's
That was very good.
so
That was a good
that's
catch.
actually comic book, and that was really the only thing I saw that was new. Obviously, they mentioned the call number of the airplane a couple times, 616, but we've talked about that.
I caught that too. Yeah, that was kind of fun. Lindsay and I were talking about that because, the first they called it 616, and I went, "Ooh, that's cool."
But they did that in the pilot.
Oh, they did. I forgot about that then. This.
Um, I also wanted to quickly talk about something that I never talk about, but I noticed a couple of really funny things this time. Believe it or not, Manos, I'm going to mention a couple of commercials.
Oh, really?
Um,
Oh,
well, I almost expected a Nick Fury appearance in this episode, and then suddenly I see Sam Jackson in the Capital One commercial during the show, and that cracked me up. I'm like, okay, so he's not going to be in the show, but I still saw his face while watching this. That's so funny.
he's still watching.
And
He's
then there
still
was
there.
and then there was a Jaguar commercial that's hilarious, by the way, about how British people always play villains, and Tom Hiddleston was in it.
Yes, and Mark Strong.
That was awesome. Did you see that?
I've seen that commercial like 80 billion times. Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't watch. The thing is, I don't watch TV when it's on usually, but I was watching this on Hulu, so those commercials came up.
Oh yeah, that's a really cool commercial. Like yeah, the Mandarin, Sinestro, and Loki are in that commercial.
Oh, I didn't even pick up that that was Sinestro because he wasn't in the makeup, and I haven't seen him in much else.
Yeah, he
Oh,
played Mark Strong. Also played Sinestro.
okay. Well, thanks for mentioning that. So we're not just talking about villains; we're talking comic book villains.
Yeah,
So that was like a commercial that they intentionally made sure to put in Shield. That's cool.
and also don't forget
That's cool.
Mark Strong is also the villain in the first Kick-Ass.
I knew I had seen him someplace.
If I don't know, has he ever played like a good guy ever in his life? It's like all he plays is villains. It's like you have when you're an actor, if you have a certain shaped skull and an arched eyebrow, you're done. You have to play villains for the rest of your life.
Let's go ahead and go on to predictions now. Manos, I think the number one A question right now for me is not exactly how Coulson came back, but why. I'm
Mm.
still asking that. I still don't understand why it was so important to Fury that he bring Coulson back from the dead. And I'm not complaining that we don't know yet. What I find strange is that that's not a question anybody in the show is asking.
That's true, and actually, a lot of fans aren't asking that question
All
because
they want to know is what exactly happened. But if I were Coulson, my first question would be: we lose agents all the time. What is so important about me? Why am I so significant?
here's the thing. I mean, let's think about how Fury uses his death in the Avengers movie. He
Right.
uses it to help kind of motivate the Avengers into action. Why risk screwing that up by bringing him back?
Yeah, I don't know. And there's got to be a reason. And again, they might have a great one. We'll find out.
Yeah.
But what's weird to me is just that the characters on the show aren't asking that. I brought this up before, but I felt the need to mention it again because it's still happening, and this episode was all about that. We actually got to go to the place, and he's still not asking that. I don't know. I also think that it's a missed opportunity for some character stuff for Coulson because we could be dealing a little bit more, not just about mortality and supposed immortality, but also with individual significance, and that's that's something I think we should probably be playing up a little bit more. Is why is he so important? Um, let's see. I mentioned a couple of mine already. Okay, here's my big one with Sky. I'm really wondering if she really does have superpowers, like we've been thinking, and given that she was in 084, and a lot of people in the comments have mentioned, well, 084s are just unidentified or like strange objects. They're not necessarily people with superpowers, but I'm like, yeah, but it's a person, so what else would it be unless it was someone with superpowers? And all the 084s we've had so far that have been people have had superpowers, so you could be right, but I still am banking on Sky's got superpowers. I think it's very possible, Manos, that when she gets up, because she's just had her system restarted and she's gonna be good as new like Coulson was, her superpowers, if she has any, might kick into high gear.
That I wonder if we'll see that in the next episode.
And if that happens, that could be a really good reason to not let us see her conscious at the end of this.
Mm-hmm. I think.
That'd be neat. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I hope so.
Do you think maybe
That'd be
we'll
cool.
see her? Maybe at the conclusion of next episode when maybe all seems lost, where we have our Asgardians fighting each other. Maybe that might
Well,
not be a bad time for her to show up with some power.
yeah, good call. I didn't. It didn't even occur to me that she might be unconscious for part of the next episode or even all of it. Also, just thought of this. Given all of the hints that we've pointed out in previous episodes that her ability might be some kind of enhanced pheromones and the ability to control men, isn't it interesting that we just brought in Lorelai?
Yeah, that's true. Oh wow.
Right here, really, while she's unconscious and then she's about to come back. Is there going to be a parallel there? I think that is more fuel for my fire. That's and Dan's.
Well,
That's who
I hope
the
you're
power
not
she
wrong
has.
because that sounds awesome.
Makes a lot of sense, right?
I was just reading a couple issues the recent Spider-Women arc of Avengers Assembled, actually. And there's a great issue where Spider-Woman uses those powers to much great effect, actually, to the point where nobody realizes she's been increasing the situation in the story because she so subtly uses it.
Well, Manos, let's go ahead finally and go on to trivia. What was your trivia question from last time, from a whopping 4 weeks ago?
4 weeks ago. Well, the trivia question is, what was my trivia question?
Do you not have it with you?
No, it's right here.
Okay. What was it, and what was the answer, sir?
The answer was, let's see, wow, this is a big notebook. Hold on. I didn't have the place marked. I'm sorry. Let's
In the
see.
dark ages, some of us just use a notepad on our computer, but Manos is still writing with pen and pencil.
All right, here we go. The question was, what was Deathlock's first appearance? And it was Astonishing Tales number 25.
Awesome. Well, my question from last time was exactly what was the message that Mike wrote for the Clairvoyant on a piece of paper at the end of last episode. By the way, we didn't talk about him. It was kind of interesting that he didn't immediately come back, but Deathlock was mentioned. And the answer was, "Can I please see my son?" That's what he wrote. Manos, what is your question for this week, sir?
This week, to celebrate how awesomely Bill Paxton this episode was, my question is, what was Bill Paxton's film debut?
Cool. This has got to be the first. This has got to be the first question that's ever been asked on this show that's not comic related. That's great.
That's, well, good. That's how we do it now.
now that I'm here,
I will give you a small hint, and this is the
Yeah.
smallest of hints. It's uncredited.
Ooh, cool. I wonder if anybody will come up with it without looking it up.
That would be impressive.
That would be impressive.
Even I didn't know. Actually, I had thought I knew what his debut was, and I was actually wrong.
If you actually know it, and then in parentheses, I mean, if you actually know it in the comments, please write, and I didn't look it up, because that would be impressive, and I'd like to know if you did that. My trivia question for this week, as always, from the episode is, what is the code question to get into the Tahiti facility? That's my question, and everybody, thanks as always for listening to S.H.I.E.L.D. discussions. Fun that the show is finally back and we get to do this again. And Manos, I think we have a new episode next week. I didn't look.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, after taking a month off, it would be pretty jerky to have another rerun.
Yeah, that'd be a bad move.
It would be remarkably bad. They deserve to be canceled. If they're rerun next week.
Well, anyway, Manos, I'm excited to see what happens after this. I'm really excited to see what happens with Sky. I wakes up. I think this is probably in quite a while the most excited I've been to see the next episode. I think they gave me quite a bit to want to come back. And so anyway, thanks again for listening, folks. We sure appreciate it. Manos, thanks again for being with me, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Always enjoy it.
We'll see you again next week. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm the real Manos.
See you later.